The rough bark of the old oak tree scraped against Elias's cheek, the rope biting into his wrists where he was bound behind the cotton gin. His torn shirt hung away, leaving his back bare to the morning sun and the waiting whip of Rory Pike. 3 feet behind him, Pike slowly coiled the leather, letting Elias hear each deliberate loop. "You've been humming again, boy," Pike said, his voice a flat, cold sheet. "No songs in my fields, I told you. No noise but work." Elias closed his eyes, pressing harder against the tree. It was ancient, older than the plantation, older than slavery in this whole cursed delta. His father once said trees remember. Maybe this one would remember him, too, after today. Pike's boots scraped in the dirt. The whip whispered through the air. But Elias Carter, 23 years old and born into chains on Willow Bend Plantation, had decided something that morning. Something the whip couldn't beat out of him. He would not die here. Not tied to this tree. Not silent. Not without a fight for the one thing they could never truly take, his freedom. Before we continue this amazing story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and comment "freedom," so I know who you are. Thank you. Let's keep going. The first lash came without warning, a line of fire across his shoulders. He bit down hard, tasting blood, refusing Pike the satisfaction of a scream. The second strike followed fast, then the third. By the fifth, Elias had learned to breathe between the blows, sending his mind somewhere else. To his father's songs. To the stars pointing north. To Ada's face. Ada, God, he hoped she was safe. That she'd heard the warning. "That's 10, Pike announced, stepping back. He was breathing hard, more from pleasure than effort. "You feel like singing now, Elias? Or you ready to work quiet, like you're supposed to?" Elias said nothing. His back screamed, each wound burning like hot metal pressed to skin, but his silence was its own small victory. Silence meant Pike hadn't broken him. "Cut him down," Pike told another field hand, a young man named Moses who wouldn't meet Elias's eyes. "Get him to old Miriam. Can't have him dying before Master Ward decides on selling him." The words hit harder than the whip. Selling him, so the rumors were true. Moses's hands shook as he cut the ropes. Elias's legs buckled, but Moses caught him, steadied him. "I'm sorry," Moses whispered. "I'm sorry, Elias." "Not your fault," Elias managed, though speaking felt like swallowing glass. "Help me to Miriam's." They moved slowly across the compound, past the cotton gin and work sheds, toward the small cabin at the edge of the quarters. Other enslaved people watched from doorways and fields, their faces carefully blank. Everyone knew what the tree meant. Everyone had either been there or watched someone they loved tied to it. Miriam was already waiting, her ancient face creased with fury. "Put him on the table," she ordered Moses. "Gentle, now." She turned to Pike, who had followed. "You done with him?" "For now. Ward wants him able to work by next week. Cotton to bring in. Get out of my house, then. Can't heal nobody with you standing there breathing your poison air." Pike's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. Even overseers knew better than to cross Miriam on healing. She'd been on Willow Bend longer than anyone, had delivered half the white children, and saved more black lives than could be counted. She had power here, the kind you couldn't whip away. When Pike left, Miriam's hands turned gentle, assessing the damage. "Lord have mercy, child. What you do to make him this mad?" "I sang," Elias whispered. "Daddy's song. The one about the drinking gourd." Miriam froze, her eyes meeting his. Then, quietly, "You fool boy. Beautiful, brave, stupid fool." She began cleaning the wounds with water and herbs. "They're gonna sell you for sure now. You know that." "I know. And you still sang." Elias looked at her, his eyes clear despite the pain. "Miss Miriam, if I stop singing, I might as well be dead already. And I ain't ready to die. Not yet." Miriam studied his face a long moment, then nodded slowly. "All right, then. Let's make sure you live long enough to sing again." She pressed a cool cloth to his back. "But next time you run that mouth, you better be ready to run them feet, too." "Yes, ma'am," Elias said. But in his heart, he was already running. He was already free. For 3 days, Elias lay on his stomach in Miriam's cabin while she worked her knowledge on his torn back. She used poultices of comfrey and plantain, salves of beeswax and chundula. The pain was a constant, dull roar, but slowly the wounds began to close. Through the cabin's single window, he heard the world of Willowbend continue, work songs from the cotton fields, the crack of Pike's whip, the endless rhythm of labor that measured lives in bales and pounds. Master Absalom Ward's plantation sat in the Mississippi Delta, where the land was flat and rich and soaked with sweat and blood. 200 people lived here in bondage, their lives measured not in years, but in how much cotton they could pick, how many children they could bear, how long they could last before their bodies gave out. Elias had been born here 23 years ago. He barely remembered his mother, who died of fever when he was 5. But his father, Samuel Carter, had left him 2 things, a name and songs. The songs were survival. They carried memory, told stories, passed information. A work chant about following the drinking gourd was really instructions for following the Big Dipper north. A hymn about crossing the River Jordan spoke of crossing the Ohio into free territory. The songs kept people human when everything else tried to make them tools. That's why Pike hated them. That's why he beat anyone who sang without permission. On the 4th morning, Ada came. She slipped into the cabin just after dawn, carrying a basket of mending as her excuse. Miriam was outside gathering herbs, and for a few precious minutes, they were alone. "Elias," Ada breathed, seeing his bandaged back. "Oh, Elias." "I'm all right," he said, though sitting up made stars burst behind his eyes. "You okay?" "Pike didn't. He don't suspect me." "Not yet." Ada set down her basket and knelt beside the cot. 20 years old, slender and quick, with careful eyes that missed nothing. Raised in the Maine house, taught to read by a previous mistress. Now she worked as a house servant, sewing and serving, invisible and invaluable. She reached into her apron and pulled out a small scrap of cloth covered in her careful handwriting. "I found this in Master Ward's study. He left papers out when he was drinking." Elias squinted. He couldn't read much, but Ada had been teaching him. "What's it say?" "A letter to the slave trader in Natchez. He's selling 20 people in October. 6 weeks from now." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "We're both on the list, Elias. You, me, Samuel, Jacob from the South Quarters. Moses, Big Mary, Thomas the Carpenter. 20 names." The room tilted. He'd known it was coming. Ward was drowning in debt, but knowing in your head and seeing your name on a selling list were different things. Being sold south usually meant the sugarcane fields of Louisiana, where life was measured in seasons, not years. 6 weeks, Elias repeated, his mind already racing. That's new moon on the 19th. Dark enough to move. Ada's eyes widened. "You're serious? You're really planning? We can't wait any more, Ada. You know what selling south means. We go now, or we don't go at all." "But how?" Pike's watching closer than ever. "The dogs. I've been thinking on this for 6 years. Since the last time I tried to run. That time I went alone. Stupid. Didn't know the land. This time's different." He gripped her hand. "This time I got Miriam teaching me the bayou paths. I got you reading maps and letters from the house. I know a man who can help. Old Ben, the boatman. He knows channels the white folks never see. Ben would risk that for us. Ben's been helping people disappear for years. Quiet. Careful. Says he's got one more run in him before he's too old." Elias leaned forward, ignoring the pain. "But I need your help. We need to know Pike's schedule, when the patrols run, what Ward's planning. You got eyes in the big house. I got knowledge of the land. Together." The door opened. Miriam stood there with her basket of roots, her old eyes sharp. She looked at their clasped hands, at Ada's contraband papers, at the desperate hope on their faces. "Y'all planning something foolish," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, ma'am," Elias admitted. Miriam closed the door firmly, set down her basket. "Then you better plan it smart. 'Cause foolish and stupid is the difference between free and dead." She sat on her stool, folded her hands. "I'm too old to run. These bones wouldn't make it a mile. But I can teach you what I know. What plants hide your scent from dogs? What paths through the bayou don't show on white folks' maps? What stars to follow when clouds cover the drinking gourd?" She reached out, touching Elias's bandaged back gently. "I've been keeping people alive on this plantation for 40 years. Maybe it's time I helped some of them live." Ada's eyes filled with tears. "Miss Miriam. Hush now. We got work to do and not much time." Miriam stood, pulling down bundles of dried herbs from her rafters. "First thing, y'all need to know the land like it's written on your skin. Elias, soon as you can walk proper, you start mapping every channel, every sandbar, every gator nest between here and the Yazoo River. Ada, you watch the big house. Learn when patrols run, when dogs get fed, when white folks sleep deepest." "What about the others?" Elias asked. "The people on the selling list." "Can't save everybody," Miriam said, her voice heavy. "Hard to say it, but it's truth. Big groups get caught. You take who you can trust." "Absolutely. Who's got reason to risk dying for freedom? Who can move quiet and row steady?" She fixed him with a hard stare. "And you tell them clear. This ain't guaranteed. We might die in that bayou. Might get caught and sold worse than before. Might make it north only to find freedom ain't all we dreamed. But least we'll have tried." Elias felt something unlock in his chest, something clenched tight since Pike tied him to that tree. Hope. Dangerous, fragile, necessary hope. 6 weeks, he said again. "We can do this in 6 weeks." "We have to," Ada said simply. "Because the alternative is dying slow in the cane fields." Miriam nodded. "Then let's make sure y'all die free. If you're gonna die at all." Elias's back healed slowly, but he didn't waste time. As soon as he could walk without stumbling, he began his education in the geography of freedom. Miriam's knowledge was vast. She'd lived on Willowbend 4 decades, had traveled to neighboring plantations as a healer, knew every creek and channel in the delta. More than that, she knew plants, which ones grew where, what they meant, how to use them. "See that willow there," she'd say, pointing as they walked the bayou's edge on herb-gathering trips. "Willows mean water runs year-round, even in drought. You follow willow lines at night, you won't get lost. And see how moss grows thicker on the north side of that cypress. Natural compass." She taught him to read the water itself. Moving slow and dark meant deep, good for hiding a boat, bad for walking. Moving fast and light meant shallow, rocky, easy to wade but noisy. She showed him plants that masked human scent, wild onion rubbed on skin, mint crushed on clothes. She explained tides and how the Yazoo River swelled with rain, creating channels that appeared and vanished with the moon. But the most important lessons came at night. Miriam would wake him in the dark hours and make him navigate by stars alone. "Don't just find the drinking gourd," she'd whisper. "Know it. Feel it. Know which stars rise first, which set last. If clouds cover the sky, you follow water flowing. Creeks run to rivers, rivers run to the Mississippi runs north." Meanwhile, Ada worked her own kind of magic in the big house. Invisible, as all servants were to white people who saw only their own needs, she was the perfect spy. She learned Master Ward's drinking schedule, 3 glasses of whiskey after dinner, passed out by 10. She noted Mrs. Ward's sleeping drafts, the headaches that kept her in bed until noon. She memorized the patrols. Pike and 2 other men rode the boundaries at sunset and again at midnight. The dogs were kenneled at night unless Pike suspected trouble. Most valuable of all, She had access to Ward's study when she cleaned. The master left papers scattered when he was drunk, letters from the bank, correspondence with slave traders, maps marked with property boundaries and patrol routes. Ada couldn't take them, but she had something better, a memory trained by years of memorizing Bible verses and hymns. She'd study a document for 30 seconds, then recreate it from memory on her flour sack papers. Maps, schedules, names. She gave these to Elias piece by piece, and slowly they built a picture of how to escape. Patrols change on the 15th of each month, she told him one evening, meeting in the tobacco barn where they could speak freely. New riders come, old ones leave. There's always 3 days of confusion while they learn the routes. The 15th, Elias repeated. That's 5 days before the new moon. Perfect. They recruited carefully. Samuel and Jacob, 2 brothers from the South Quarters, were their first choices. Both were strong, desperate, with nothing left to lose. Samuel's wife had been sold south 2 years ago. Jacob had watched his sister die of fever while the master refused a doctor. When Elias approached them, Samuel just nodded. When? 6 weeks. Can you row a boat? Can I breathe? Yeah, I can row. Jacob, younger and angrier, had one question: we gonna fight if they catch us? If we have to, Elias said honestly. But smart is better than brave. Smart means we don't get caught. I've been smart my whole life, Jacob said bitterly. Where'd that get me? Alive, Ada said quietly. Which is where you need to be to get free. Jacob looked at her, then nodded. The harder part was approaching old Ben. A free black man technically, with papers earned decades ago by his previous master's will. But papers didn't protect you from mobs, from laws that could revoke freedom on a whim. Ben made his living running goods up and down the tributaries in a flat-bottomed boat. He was careful, respectful, never caused trouble. But he had a reputation in the quarters, whispered carefully. Ben helped people disappear. Elias met him at the loading dock near the cotton gin, where Ben was offloading barrels of molasses. The old man was maybe 60, maybe 70, hard to tell, with gray in his hair and muscles still strong from years of rowing. Need to talk to you, Elias said quietly. Ben didn't look up. Talk about what? About the Yazoo River. About channels that don't show on white folks' maps. Ben's hand stilled a moment. That's dangerous talk, boy. Everything's dangerous now. Ward's selling me and 19 others in 6 weeks. I go south to the cane fields, I'm dead in a year. Maybe 2 if I'm lucky. And if I help you run and they catch you, they'll hang you. Hang me too. Free papers or not. Ben lifted a barrel, his voice low. I'm an old man, Elias. I already done my part. Helped 11 people go north over the years. Lost count of close calls. I'm tired. I know. And I ain't asking light. But Miss Miriam says you know the water better than anybody. Says you know places to hide a boat where search parties can't follow. Says, Elias stepped closer. Says you believe freedom's worth dying for. Ben set down the barrel, finally looking at Elias full on. His eyes were hard, measuring. How many people? 6. Me, Ada from the house, brothers named Samuel and Jacob, and 2 others we ain't settled on yet. Light enough to move fast. Small enough to hide. Equipment. Working on it. We got time. Moon phase. New moon. October 19th. Darkest night. Ben was quiet a long time, looking past Elias toward the river, toward the north. Finally, my boat holds 6 if they don't mind crowding. I know a channel off the Yazoo, hidden by willows, where we can lay up during daylight. From there, it's 3 days hard rowing to where the patrols don't reach. He looked back. But I'm too old for rowing the whole way. Y'all gonna have to take turns, and you gotta be strong. Can you do that? Yes, sir. And if we get caught, if dogs tree us or pike corners us, I won't be taken alive. I made that promise to myself 20 years ago. You understand. Elias understood. Being caught meant torture, sale, example making. For Ben, it meant losing everything. Better to die fighting. I understand. Ben nodded slowly. Then we got a deal. But, Elias, he gripped the young man's shoulder. You make damn sure everybody knows the stakes. This ain't a game. This is life and death's got better odds. I'll tell them. Good. Ben released him, went back to his barrels. Now get gone before Pike sees you talking to me too long. And Elias, start building your arms up. Rowing for 3 days straight'll kill you if you ain't ready. Elias left, heart pounding. They had a plan. They had a guide. They had a chance. Now they just had to survive long enough to use it. Plans are delicate things. They require secrecy, trust, perfect timing. And in a place like Willowbend, where every black person was watched, secrecy was almost impossible. The betrayal came from where betrayals always come, desperation. Cyrus was 50, broken by decades in the fields, his hands twisted with arthritis, his back permanently bent. He'd lost 2 wives to disease, 3 children to sale, his will to live to simple exhaustion. When Pike offered an easier job in the stables for information on troublemakers, Cyrus saw only survival. So when he noticed Elias slipping away to the bayou, saw Ada and Elias whispering, heard Samuel and Jacob talking quiet, he talked. Pike listened with a hunter's patience. He didn't arrest them immediately. Instead, he watched. Noted patterns. Strengthened patrols. Moved the dog kennels. Randomly inspected areas. And he waited. The first sign of trouble came a week before the escape. Ada was cleaning Ward's study when she noticed something wrong. The map she'd been memorizing was positioned slightly differently. Someone had moved it. They know, she whispered to Elias that night behind the smokehouse. I don't know how much, but Pike knows something. They stood in darkness, weighing options. Call it off. Run now, unprepared. We can't call it off, Samuel said when they gathered in Miriam's cabin. We're on the selling list. We got 11 days till Ward hands us to the trader. We run now or we don't run at all. But if Pike knows, Ada started. Then we change the plan, Elias cut in. His mind raced. Pike's smart, but predictable. He thinks like a white man who owns people. He'll expect us to run straight north, go at night, be scared and sloppy. So what do we do? Jacob asked. Elias looked at Miriam. Miss Miriam, that medicine you make for fever, the one that puts people to sleep deep. Miriam's eyes narrowed. What you thinking, boy? I'm thinking if the dogs are asleep, they can't chase us. If Pike's drunk enough, he'll sleep through his patrol. If we drug the well water at the patrol station. That's poison talk, Samuel said sharply. You poison white folks, they'll hang every black person here. Not poison, Miriam said slowly, understanding. Sedative. Strong enough to make them sleep. Weak enough they wake with a headache. Think they drank too much. She nodded. I can make that. But timing's gotta be perfect. We move 2 days early, Elias said. October 17th, when the patrol's still learning routes. Ada, you slip Miriam's mixture into the evening coffee at the patrol station when you bring dinner. Dogs get drugged meat. By midnight, everybody's sleeping hard. We take Ben's boat, we're in the Yazoo before sunrise. That's 9 days from now, Ada said. Can we be ready? Elias looked around the cabin at the faces of his family. Samuel and Jacob, hard and desperate. Ada, brilliant and brave. Miriam, ancient and wise. Old Ben, risking his freedom one more time. We have to be, he said simply. The next 9 days were the longest of Elias's life. Every moment felt like walking a rope over fire. But they worked with focused intensity, knowing death was the alternative. Miriam prepared her medicines in secret, testing doses on herself until the mixture was perfect. Ada finalized her intelligence, mapping every patrol route, memorizing every weapon's location, saying quiet goodbyes she couldn't explain. Samuel and Jacob built their strength, gathering supplies, tarpaulins, rope, dried food, hidden in a hollow tree near the bayou. Elias studied the stars obsessively, memorizing every constellation, every method of navigation. He made a final visit to his father's unmarked grave. "I'm finishing what you started, Daddy. I'm going north." Old Ben prepared his boat, checking every board, spreading quiet word he'd be gone fishing, an alibi. On October 16th, the day before the planned escape, Pike made his move. He came to Miriam's cabin with 2 men and dogs. "Search it," he ordered. "Every corner, every jar." Miriam stood in her doorway, arms crossed. "What you looking for, Mr. Pike?" "Contraband. Weapons. Stolen goods." They tore through the cabin, dumping herb jars, ripping up floorboards. They found Ada's hidden papers, flour sacks with hymns written on them. Pike's smile was vicious. "Looks like somebody's been learning to read." "That's illegal, you know." "Those are mine," Miriam said calmly. "From when I was young, before the laws changed." He didn't believe her, but couldn't prove it. He didn't find the sleeping draft, Miriam had moved it that morning, or the supplies by the bayou. But he'd made his point, "We're watching." That night, the core group gathered one final time in the tobacco barn. The mood was tense, frightened, determined. "He knows something," Jacob said. "Maybe not everything, but enough to be hunting," Elias said. "Which is why we move tonight instead of tomorrow." "He'll be expecting tomorrow." "We go tonight." "We're 12 hours ahead of his thinking." "But we ain't ready," Samuel protested. "Supplies ain't all gathered. The drugged meat." "Don't matter," came a quiet voice. Ben had slipped in through the shadows. "Pike's tightening the noose. We go tonight or we hang tomorrow. Simple as that." Ada looked at Elias, her eyes frightened but steady. "You sure about this?" Elias thought about the tree, the whip, the selling list. His father's songs. Miriam's herbs. Ada's secret papers. All the people who died in chains, and all the ones who died trying to break free. "I'm sure," he said. "Tonight, we stop being slaves. Whatever comes after, freedom or death, at least it'll be ours." Miriam stepped forward, placing her hands on his shoulders. "You listen to me, child. You keep your head clear and your heart strong. You follow the stars, trust the water, and believe in yourself. And if you make it, when you make it, you remember us. You tell our stories. You make sure the world knows we were people, not property." "I will," Elias promised, voice breaking. "Miss Miriam, I swear I will." She pulled him into a brief, fierce hug. "Then go, all of you. Go now before I lose my nerve and try to keep you here where I can protect you." They slipped out into the October night, one by one, shadows moving through shadows. Elias went last, pausing to look back at Miriam standing in her cabin's lamplight, the woman who'd saved his body at that tree, taught him to survive, shown him how to be free even before he escaped. "Thank you," he whispered. "Don't thank me yet," she said. "Thank me when you're standing on free soil. Now go, child. Run." And Elias ran. The night was warm and moonless, perfect for hiding, terrible for seeing. Elias led the group through memorized paths, moving by feel. Behind him came Ada, then Samuel and Jacob, all carrying small bundles. Ben had gone ahead to prepare the boat. They moved in absolute silence, communicating with hand signals. Every snap of a twig made them freeze. The quarters were quiet, most asleep. But Pike's cabin had a light burning, forcing them to circle wide. The bayou was alive at night, frogs singing, insects humming, water moving. Somewhere close, a gator bellowed. They reached the hollow tree, loaded arms with rope, tarpaulin, dried corn, smoked meat. Everything had to come. Then, voices shockingly close. A patrol. Said he saw movement near the south quarters. Everything looks suspicious to you. It's just field hands going to the privy. The group flattened against the earth. The patrol passed within 20 feet, so close Elias could hear the horses breathing, smell tobacco smoke. If one had looked down, but they didn't. They rode on. Too close, Samuel breathed. Keep moving, Elias whispered. Bayous just ahead. The final stretch was hardest, ground turning soft, muddy, then standing water. They waded knee-deep, praying not to step on a snake. Ada's skirt caught on roots. Jacob cut her free. Samuel twisted his ankle, bit back a cry. But finally, they saw it, old Ben's boat, hidden in a cave of overhanging willows. Ben crouched in the bow. Thought y'all weren't coming. Had to dodge a patrol, Elias breathed. We ready. As we'll ever be. Get in quick and quiet. Stay low. They loaded into the flat-bottomed boat, cramped with 6 people, supplies, and oars, but it would have to do. Ben took the stern, pulling them away from the bank. The boat moved silently, disappearing into the bayou's channels. For the first hour, nobody spoke. Every sound felt amplified. Elias sat in the bow, watching stars through the canopy, confirming north. The bayou was a maze, channels splitting and rejoining, dead ends appearing. But Ben knew these waters. He chose paths impossibly narrow, channels that wouldn't show on any white surveyor's map. Around midnight, they heard it, dogs barking in the distance. Lots of them. They found us gone, Ada whispered, voice tight. Not us specifically, Ben said, still pulling steadily. Just empty quarters. They don't know which way yet. But they will soon. We need distance. Fast. How far to the Yazoo? 3 miles as the crow flies. 5 the way we gotta go. Another hour if we push hard. They pushed hard. Ben's arms never seemed to tire. In deeper water, Samuel and Jacob took oars, rowing with powerful strokes. Ada bailed. Elias navigated, calling out obstacles. Dawn was the enemy now. They needed Ben's hiding place before sunrise. The sky was lightening to gray when they slipped into the Yazoo River proper, wider, faster, terrifyingly exposed. For 10 minutes, they rode in open water, completely vulnerable. Then Ben guided them into a channel on the far bank, hidden behind a thick curtain of willows. A gap barely wide enough led to a small lagoon, completely enclosed by trees and vines, another world, green and hidden. This is it, Ben said, voice weary. Where we hide today. Dogs can't track over water. Patrols can't see through this canopy. We rest, sleep, wait for night. They pulled the boat onto a muddy island, covered it with branches and moss. For the first time since fleeing, they breathed fully. Elias looked at the exhausted faces around him, Ada with her dress torn and muddy, Samuel and Jacob collapsed together, old Ben rubbing his arms. All of them free for the first time. We did it, Ada whispered, wonder in her voice. We're really out. First part, Ben corrected. We're out of Willow Bend. But Mississippi's still Mississippi. 1,000 ways to get caught between here and free soil. He fixed them with a hard stare. This is where it gets harder. Anybody want to turn back? Speak now. Silence. Then Jacob laughed, a sound bitter and free. Turn back to what? The selling block? Pike's whip? No, sir. I'd rather die in this bayou than go back in chains. Then we rest, Ben said. We eat a little, sleep a little. And tonight, we row like the devil himself is chasing us. 'Cause he is. They rationed food, hard cornbread, dried meat, filtered water from the lagoon. Taking turns at watch, they slept the fitful sleep of fugitives. Every sound a threat, every dream haunted by dogs. But they were free. And as Elias drifted off, Ada's hand in his, he dreamed of the future, a future of their own choosing. They woke to the sound of dogs. Mid-afternoon, the worst time. Barking from across the river, distant but unmistakable, a hunting pack, trained and hungry. Ben was already uncovering the boat. Don't matter how they found us. Matters that we move now. But it's daylight, Ada protested. They'll see us. They'll find us if we stay. Moving gives a chance. Ben's face was grim. Channel half a mile north, runs through a cane brake so thick they can't follow on horseback. We make it there, we got a shot. They loaded into the boat, hands shaking. The dogs grew louder. Men's voices now, shouting orders. Pike's voice, he'd come himself. They pushed off, keeping to willow shadows, then back into the Yazoo's current. For a terrible moment, they were exposed. Then they angled toward the far bank, toward the cane brake. A shout erupted behind them. They'd been seen. Row. Ben commanded. Everything you got. Samuel and Jacob pulled with desperate strength. The boat shot forward. Behind them, dogs hit the riverbank, barking frenzied. Elias looked back, 3 bloodhounds, white men on horseback. And there, mounted on a big roan, was Rory Pike. Their eyes met across the water. Pike smiled cold, raised his rifle. Down. Elias shouted. The shot cracked. Bullet hit the stern, splintering wood. Pike reloaded, dogs howling. They can't cross here, Ben said, pulling furiously. Current's too strong. But there's a ford a quarter-mile upstream. They'll use that, try to cut us off. The cane brake loomed, a wall of green stalks 12 feet tall. Ben guided them into a narrow channel so tight cane brushed both sides. Visibility dropped to nothing. They were surrounded, moving blind through green twilight. Quiet now, Ben whispered. Sound carries strange in here. Don't talk. Don't splash. They glided in eerie silence. Behind, dogs barked, men cursed, sound seeming from everywhere. The channel twisted, branching, and rejoining. Without Ben, they'd have been lost. After 20 agonizing minutes, they emerged into open water again, wide, fast-moving, deep. Ben pointed to the far shore. See those cypresses? Behind them, a channel to the Sunflower River. From there, 2 days to the state line if we push hard. 2 days, Ada breathed. 2 days to freedom. They weren't there yet. They rode through afternoon into evening, taking turns, arms screaming, hands blistering. The river fought them, but they were relentless, driven by fear and hope. As darkness fell, they rested briefly on a sandbar. Elias watched stars emerge, the drinking gourd, clear and bright, pointing north. My daddy said the stars were promises, he said quietly. Promises that freedom was real, somewhere past the horizon. Your daddy was right, Samuel said. And we're gonna reach it. For him. For everyone still in chains. They pushed off again, rowing through night. The Sunflower River was narrower, shadowed by overhanging trees, safer, more hidden. They made good time. Dawn came gray and cold. Exhausted, running on will alone. Ben found another hiding spot, a collapsed riverbank forming a natural cave just big enough for the boat. They pulled inside, waited for daylight to pass. But luck was running out. Jacob heard them first, hoofbeats on the riverbank, close. Through gaps in the collapsed earth, they saw riders, 3, led by Pike. He'd tracked them through the night, changing horses, pushing to exhaustion. His face was haggard but determined. He knew these rivers, knew where fugitives hid. He'd been hunting runaways 15 years. He was very, very good at it. Pike stopped his horse 20 feet away. Dogs sniffed the ground, the water, circling closer. I know you're here, Elias, Pike called. I can smell you. That old man Ben, too. Thought he was smart. Thought he was careful. But I got him now. Got all of you. In the boat, Ben's hand moved to his belt knife. His eyes met Elias's. I won't be taken. Come out now, I'll make it easy, Pike continued. Stay hidden, I'll burn this whole riverbank to flush you out. Your choice. Elias's mind raced. Trapped. If Pike set fires, smoke would suffocate them. If they ran, dogs would catch them. If they fought, they'd die, 6 tired, unarmed against 3 with guns. Then Ada touched his arm, pointed upstream. Through morning mist, another boat, a small fishing skiff, a single black man hauling nets. Josiah the blacksmith. He'd weakened their chains, promised to help. And he'd come. Josiah called out to Pike. You looking for runaways, boss? I seen a boat heading downstream about an hour ago. 6 people, running hard. Downstream. You sure? Yes, sir. Went right past me. Figured they was your business, not mine. Pike cursed, wheeled his horse. Downstream means they're heading for Vicksburg, trying to lose themselves in the city. Come on. The riders thundered off, dogs baying. Sound faded into silence. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Ben let out a shaking breath. Lord have mercy. Josiah rode his skiff closer, face grave. Y'all need to move fast. I bought you maybe an hour before Pike figures I lied. Trail through the woods half-mile east. Follows the ridge line north, comes out at the state line. You'll have to walk from here. River's too watched now. But walk fast, don't stop, you might make it. Why? Elias asked, voice thick. Why risk yourself? Josiah's eyes were ancient, sad. 'Cause I got a daughter sold south 10 years ago. Never found what happened. But I hope, maybe somebody helped her too, somewhere along the way. This is me paying that debt. He handed them a bundle, bread, dried fish, a compass. Now go. And when you're free, when you got your own lives, remember, freedom ain't just for you. It's for everyone coming behind. They abandoned Ben's boat, scrambled up the collapsed bank. Old Ben moved slowly, age and exhaustion catching up. Samuel and Jacob practically carried him. The trail was barely there, more deer path than road. They walked through morning into afternoon, every sound a threat. Ada's feet bled, Elias tore his shirt to wrap them. Around 3 o'clock, they reached a creek. On the far side, a weathered sign, Tennessee border, they'd made it. Crossed out of Mississippi. Freedom, legal freedom, was still far away. Tennessee wasn't safe, not really. But it was a step closer. A line crossed that could never be uncrossed. Old Ben sat heavily on the bank. I can't go no further. My legs won't carry me. We'll help you, Elias started. But Ben shook his head. No. You young folks got miles left. I'll rest here. Maybe make it to a town tomorrow. Use my free papers. He looked at each of them. You keep going. Get to Ohio, to Canada if you can. Live free and live well. That's all the thanks I need. They knew he was lying. Knew he stayed to slow pursuit, give them a chance. Knew they might never see him again. Ada knelt, kissed his weathered cheek. Thank you, she whispered. For everything. Go on now, Ben said, voice rough. Daylight's burning. They went. 3 weeks later, Elias Carter, Ada, Samuel, and Jacob crossed into Ohio. They walked into Ripley, where people on the Underground Railroad welcomed them, fed them, gave rest. Ada cried writing her first letter as a free woman, to Miriam, care of a conductor. She described the stars they'd followed, the helpers who'd saved them, the moment they touched free soil. She ended with a promise, we will never forget. We will tell our stories. We will fight until everyone is free, Elias found work, saved money, learned to read with Ada as his teacher. Years later, when war came and colored regiments formed, he enlisted. He fought not just for his freedom, but for Miriam's, for Josiah's daughter, for every soul still in chains. He never learned what happened to old Ben. Some said he made it back to his boat, lived out his days fishing the Yazoo. Others said Pike found him, and he died as he'd lived, free and defiant. Elias chose to believe the first, but honored the second. Because freedom, he'd learned, wasn't just escaping chains. It was choosing how you lived, how you fought, how you loved. It was looking at stars and seeing promises instead of just light. And every clear night for the rest of his life, Elias Carter looked up at the drinking gourd and whispered the same words. "Thank you. We made it. And we'll never stop fighting until everyone does." The stars had always pointed north.